I've always believed that love dies quietly, not with betrayal or distance, but with laughter that cuts too deep. My wife, Alina, was the kind of woman who turned everything into a joke. It was part of her charm and part of her danger. We'd been married for 5 years, long enough for comfort to replace excitement, and routine to smother the spark we once bragged about. But I didn't mind it. I thought peace was love's highest form. She thought it was boredom. Then came Zara, her best friend since college. Zara was everything Alina wasn't anymore, wild, outspoken, and unfiltered. She could make a whole room listen just by laughing. When she entered a place, she brought chaos that somehow felt alive. I never looked at her in any special way. At least, not until that night. It was a Friday dinner at our home. Just a few friends, some wine, harmless laughter. The kind of evening you forget by morning. Or so I thought. Alina sat across from me, her eyes bright with mischief. She'd been teasing me all evening about my quiet nature, my seriousness, how I couldn't handle confident women. The others laughed, and I smiled to keep the peace. But then she turned to Zara with that familiar smirk and said something that froze me in place. "Zara, I dare you to make him blush. If you can, I'll buy you dinner anywhere you want." Everyone laughed. It was supposed to be funny, a simple dare among friends. But when Zara's eyes met mine, something shifted. There was a spark, quick, sharp, and dangerous. Zara leaned forward, her voice soft but teasing. "Blush? Oh, Alina, I could do more than that." The table roared with laughter, but I couldn't hear any of it. My pulse thudded like a warning I didn't understand. In that moment, the air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. I told myself it was just a game, that it would fade as soon as the night ended. But it didn't, because some dares don't stay jokes. They turn into stories you wish you never lived. The morning after that dinner, I tried to laugh it off, pretend it had meant nothing, just another one of Alina's games. But somewhere in the back of my mind, that look Zara gave me still lingered. It wasn't just playful. It was deliberate, like she was testing how far the dare could go. 2 days later, I got a message. "Zara, did I win the dare?" My heart gave a sudden, traitorous jump. It was harmless, just a text. I could have ignored it. I should have. But instead, I typed back, "You almost did." That was how it began. Innocent words hiding dangerous intent. Over the next few days, Zara kept texting. Sometimes about random things, music, work, movies. But every message carried that teasing undertone. And each time, I felt myself slipping a little further. It wasn't about attraction, not yet. It was the attention, the way she listened, the way she noticed the little things Alina had stopped caring about. One night she sent, "You're too quiet for someone who has so much to say." And I didn't know how to reply, because she was right. I had stopped saying things that mattered, stopped being heard. The next weekend, Alina had plans with her co-workers. I stayed home. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed again. "Zara, bored. Coffee." I hesitated. My fingers hovered over the screen, but curiosity won over caution. I told myself it was just coffee, nothing more. When I saw her waiting at that dimly lit cafe, my chest tightened. She looked different, softer. Her usual confidence had quiet edges that night. We talked for hours about life, love, disappointments. It felt strange how easily she understood things Alina never noticed. Somewhere between laughter and silence, our hands brushed. It wasn't intentional, but neither of us pulled away. "You know," she said quietly, "Alina's lucky to have someone like you." Her eyes lingered on mine longer than they should have. "She's lucky," I replied, "but I don't think she realizes it." For a few seconds, the world felt suspended, like everything around us had paused. Then she smiled faintly, breaking the spell. Maybe she just needs to be reminded. When we left, the night air felt heavier. I walked her to her car, and she stood there for a moment, hesitating, like she wanted to say something else. But she didn't. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, Alina noticed something in my face. Something off. She asked, half joking, "Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" I laughed it off, but inside, I knew something had shifted. That line between right and wrong, the one I thought I'd never cross, was already fading. Zara's messages became part of my days. Good mornings, random memes, small confessions. She said she hadn't felt this connected to anyone in a long time. I wanted to say me too, but I didn't. Not out loud. One night she texted, "I keep thinking about that look you gave me at the cafe." I stare at the screen, my pulse quickening. Before I could reply, another message came. Maybe Alina's dare wasn't a joke after all. And just like that, the game wasn't a game anymore. What started as a dare had become something unspoken, dangerous, and real. I told myself I could stop anytime, that I was in control. But deep down I knew I'd already lost the first battle, the one inside my own heart. Temptation doesn't always appear in grand gestures. Sometimes it hides in the softest words, the slowest glances, and the quietest hours of the night when no one's watching. Zara and I were talking almost every day now. Sometimes through messages, sometimes over calls that lasted far longer than they should have. At first, we pretended it was harmless, two people who understood each other. But deep down, we both knew what we were doing. One evening, I was sitting alone on the balcony, scrolling through her messages when Alina came up behind me. "You've been smiling at your phone a lot lately," she teased. "Should I be jealous?" Her tone was playful, but her eyes searched mine for an answer I didn't want to give. I forced a laugh. "It's just work stuff." She nodded slowly, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. That night, guilt crawled through my chest like a slow burn. I wanted to stop talking to Zara. I even typed out a message saying, maybe we should slow down, but I never sent it. Instead, she messaged first. "Can we meet? Just to talk." I told myself it was closure. One last conversation to draw the line before it went too far. We met at a small cafe again, quiet, dim, tucked away from the city noise. She looked nervous this time, her confidence replaced by something fragile. "I didn't plan any of this," she said softly. "It started as a joke, but now I think about you more than I should." Her words hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I saw in her eyes the same loneliness that had been haunting me for months. I reached across the table, not thinking, just reacting. My fingers brushed hers, and neither of us pulled away. The world outside kept moving, but in that small corner, time stood still. When she smiled faintly, it felt dangerous, like stepping closer to fire, but enjoying the warmth too much to stop. We didn't cross the line that day, not physically, but emotionally, we were already miles past where we should have been. Days turned into weeks, and our connection deepened. She began sharing her secrets, her regrets, her fears, and I started telling her things I'd never told anyone, not even Alina. It felt wrong, yet real. Wrong, yet intoxicating. Then one night, after another long call, Zara whispered something that froze me. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I met you first?" For a second, I couldn't breathe. Because yes, I had wondered that more times than I wanted to admit. We both stayed silent for a long time after that. The kind of silence that says more than words ever could. The next morning, I woke up beside my wife and felt a wave of guilt so strong it almost made me sick. Alina was still asleep, her hand resting lightly on my arm. She looked peaceful, trusting. I wanted to hold her tighter, to erase everything I'd done in my head. But every time my phone buzzed, my heart betrayed me. Temptation doesn't announce itself. It whispers, it waits, it convinces you that you're still in control. That evening, Zara texted again. "I think I need to see you." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted it too much. And that's when I realized the truth. This wasn't a game anymore. This was the quiet beginning of a storm that would soon tear everything apart. Every secret has a breaking point. Ours arrived on a night that started like any other, ordinary, quiet, unthreatening. Alina had invited Zara over for dinner. She said it casually that morning while sipping her coffee. "It's been a while since we all hung out. You don't mind, right?" My heart skipped a beat. "Of course not," I said, pretending to sound normal. But inside, I felt panic rising. I hadn't seen Zara in weeks. Not since the last message I left unanswered. When she walked in that evening, everything in the room shifted. She looked radiant. Yet her eyes carried the same unease I felt. We greeted each other politely, like strangers pretending not to share a secret. Dinner was a blur of laughter and tension. Alina, in her usual playful tone, joked about that old dare again. "Remember when I dared you, Zara? I think I owe you dinner." You nearly made him blush for real. Zara froze for half a second, then laughed it off. "Oh, that? Yeah, seems like forever ago." Our eyes met across the table, and for that split second, everything we had tried to bury came flooding back. The late-night calls, the quiet longing, the words we never said out loud. After dinner, Alina received a work call and went upstairs, leaving us alone in the living room. The silence between us was deafening. "This feels wrong," Zara whispered. "I know," I said, though my heart was already betraying me. She stood by the window, the soft light tracing her face. "We should have stopped before it got here." I took a slow breath. Maybe it's not too late. But when she turned around, her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something far more dangerous. Longing. I didn't plan to move closer, but I did. Maybe it was the weight of the silence. Maybe the months of what-ifs building up inside me. Either way, the distance between us vanished. When our lips finally met, it wasn't passion, it was desperation. The kind that burns fast and leaves scars that never fully heal. The moment ended as quickly as it began. She pulled away, her voice trembling. "We can't do this." I nodded, but the damage was already done. We had crossed the invisible line that separated temptation from betrayal. A noise upstairs made us jump. Alina's footsteps. My heart pounded, so hard I thought she could hear it. Zara quickly stepped back, pretended to check her phone, just as Alina entered the room. "Everything okay down here?" Alina asked, smiling. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just talking." Zara grabbed her purse. "I should get going. It's late." Alina hugged her goodbye without suspecting a thing. But when the door closed behind Zara, I felt the air leave my lungs. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Zara's face, then Alina's, one filled with guilt, the other with trust. I hated myself for what I'd done. In the following days, things began to change subtly. Alina sensed the distance. She looked at me longer than usual, her eyes searching for something, proof, maybe. I started avoiding her gaze, terrified she'd find what I was hiding. Zara stopped messaging altogether. The silence between us was louder than any confession. A week later, I got a short message from her. "We made a mistake. Don't reach out." That single line felt like a verdict. I deleted our chat that night, every word, every memory, hoping it would erase the guilt too. But guilt doesn't vanish. It lingers in your chest, whispering at 2 a.m. when the world is quiet. I looked at Alina sleeping beside me, her face calm and trusting. I wanted to tell her everything, to beg for forgiveness, but I stayed silent. Because sometimes silence feels safer than the truth, even when you know it's slowly destroying everything you love. Secrets rot in silence, and when they finally surface, they don't whisper, they explode. It started with small things. Alina began asking questions that felt too sharp to be casual. "Why do you delete your messages so often? Why did Zara stop visiting?" I'd laugh it off, deflect, change the subject. But guilt has a way of showing itself, no matter how well you hide it. My words stayed calm, but my eyes told the truth. Then one evening, she found the ghost I had tried to bury. I came home late from work. The house was dark, except for the dim kitchen light. Alina was sitting at the table, her phone in her hand, her expression unreadable. "You should really learn how to log out of your backup drive," she said quietly. My breath caught. I didn't need to ask what she'd seen. I knew. The messages, the late-night calls, the photos from the cafe I thought were deleted forever. I took a slow step forward. "Alina, let me explain." She raised a hand. "Don't. I've read everything." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were glassy. "I just want to hear you say it. Did anything happen between you and Zara?" The silence stretched like a knife between us. I wanted to lie, to protect her from the truth, or maybe to protect myself from the shame. But the weight of everything we'd done pressed too hard against my chest. Yes, I whispered. She blinked once, twice, and then she laughed, a small broken sound. So the dare wasn't just a joke anymore, was it? Her laughter turned into tears before she could stop herself. She stood, shoving the phone into my chest. You humiliated me with her, my best friend. Do you even realize what you've done? I reached for her, but she stepped back. The distance between us felt like a canyon I could never cross again. It wasn't supposed to happen, I said, my voice cracking. It just did. No, she snapped. It didn't just happen. You made choices. You kept choosing her. For the first time, I saw not anger in her eyes, but betrayal. Deep, soul-cutting betrayal. She wiped her tears and said, almost to herself, you know what's funny? I started it. I made the dare. I thought I was being funny. She looked at me then, her voice trembling. But I didn't know the joke would be on me. The front door opened quietly. Zara stood there, hesitant, guilt written all over her face. Alina, I came to talk. Don't. Alina interrupted coldly. You've said enough without saying a word. Zara's eyes welled up and she whispered, I never meant to hurt you. You did. Alina said flatly, both of you did. The silence that followed was unbearable. Zara turned to leave, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry. When the door closed behind her, the sound echoed like the end of something sacred. Alina sank into a chair, exhausted. You should go, she said softly. I can't look at you right now. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to say that could undo the damage. I packed a small bag and left. As I stood at the doorway, I looked back, half hoping she'd stop me, half knowing she wouldn't. She didn't. The drive to the motel that night was silent. Every traffic light felt like judgment. Every reflection in the windshield looked like the man I promised I'd never become. I kept replaying her last words in my head. You took my dare and turned it into my heartbreak. And maybe she was right, because sometimes we don't realize the cost of our mistakes until they've already destroyed everything worth saving. I moved out that night. No shouting, no final argument, just silence that weighed more than any scream could. The motel room was small, empty, and cold. I sat there staring at the pale ceiling, trying to understand how something that started as a joke had ended like this. Every sound from the street outside felt like a reminder that life was moving on, just not for me. I tried calling Alina, but she didn't answer. Tried texting, but my messages stayed unread. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between us grew like a wound that refused to close. I thought about Zara, too, about how quickly she disappeared. No messages, no closure, just a single apology that did nothing to ease the guilt sitting heavy on my chest. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. She wasn't the cause. She was the consequence of something already broken. In that lonely silence, I began to see things I hadn't before. I realized that what I'd been chasing wasn't love. It was attention, validation, the thrill of being seen again. Zara made me feel noticed in ways Alina had stopped doing. But that wasn't love. It was escape, a selfish one. And Alina, she hadn't been perfect either. Her jokes, her carelessness, her way of turning pain into humor, those things chipped away at me over time. But that didn't justify what I did. Love isn't a scoreboard. It's a choice you make even when the spark fades. And I failed to make it. I'd lost both of them, my wife and her best friend. But more than that, I'd lost myself. Weeks later, Alina finally agreed to meet. We sat at a cafe, the same one where it had all started with Zara. Life's cruel sense of irony. She looked tired, older somehow, but calm. I'm not angry anymore, she said quietly. Just disappointed. I nodded, unable to meet her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, she replied, and that's what matters. There was no shouting, no second chance, just understanding that some damage can't be undone. When she left, she didn't look back. And I didn't try to stop her. That evening, I sat in my car and finally accepted the truth. Sometimes, the real punishment isn't losing someone you love. It's living with the memory of how easily you destroyed them. Because love doesn't die when you stop feeling it. It dies when you stop protecting it. And that's a lesson I learned far too late. It's strange how quiet life becomes after you've broken it. No arguments, no messages, no laughter echoing to the house. Just silence, heavy and honest. 8 months have passed since everything collapsed. I've changed apartments, changed routines, even changed the way I walk through the world. But guilt travels light. It always finds room beside you. Sometimes I still dream of Alina's laughter, the way she used to tease me when life felt simple. In those dreams, she isn't angry. She's just gone, like smoke that slips through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to hold it. Zara, she vanished from my story completely. New number, new city, new life. Maybe that's mercy. Maybe that's punishment. I'll never know. I keep replaying beginning. The dinner, the dare, the first spark that should have meant nothing. It feels ridiculous now, how easily one careless moment unraveled everything I loved. I thought I was strong enough to control it, to draw a line when things got too close. But lines mean nothing when your heart starts lying to your mind. Every choice I made seemed small at first. A text, a smile, a meeting. But small choices grow roots, and those roots can pull down even the strongest walls. People ask me what happened between Alina and me. I usually say, we grew apart. It's easier than admitting the truth, that I broke something sacred for the thrill of being noticed again. If I could speak to her one last time, I wouldn't ask for forgiveness. I'd just say, I finally understand the cost of my silence, the price of my pride. Love doesn't die all at once. It fades when you stop protecting it. So now, I tell this story not to defend myself, but to remind anyone listening. Don't turn love into a dare. Don't gamble trust for curiosity. Because once you cross that invisible line, there's no going back. And sometimes the real punishment isn't losing the person you love. It's learning to live with a version of yourself who let them go.